Send some memes directly to your coworker's desk using Golioth, MePaper, and a vibe-coded front end. Welcome back to Golioth. Today we're talking about the MePaper project, which is a rebooted project on a hack day by Mike and Dylan. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey,
Doing well. Good to see you, Chris.
Mike, what is the history of this? So we actually have a blog post about this in the past, but first off, what is the MePaper and how we decided to kind of bring it back and change it?
Yeah, so in the early days of Zephyr, we were looking for a single development board platform that we could buy that had sensors on them. It was supported by Zephyr and could be used to like kind of try out building Zephyr projects. And we came across this board by Adafruit called the MagTag that has an e-paper display on it, which is kind of interesting because this board is not plugged in and you can still read everything that's on top of it. It's got connectivity, which you need to connect to Golioth. So this is an ESP32 module on the back, and it's got an accelerometer and some other sensors and also like a speaker and a few other interesting things. And since we were already working with this, when it came down to like the end of the year, Chris and I kind of wanted to like screw around with the rest of the Golioth crew, and we don't share an office. We're all remote. But everyone at the company had one of these, or almost everyone, and we could send them to the rest of the people. And so Chris and I came up with this idea of something on your desk that Golioth would deliver assets to, and everyone would see it. And obviously, you know, the most important thing you could put on there are memes.
That's right. And since it was usually hack time in the holiday hours as well, we called it Memes and Hacks. And we have a blog post we'll link below. We actually used to also do training with this board as well. So we actually used to have a whole bunch of these for everybody who showed up to in-person trainings when we did those at different events and stuff as well.
Yeah, I think we did one at the Hackaday Super Conference. I think we did one at the Zephyr Developer Conference. And yeah, it's a fun platform, but we kind of let it fall to the wayside. And I was surprised by how few of our colleagues had like remembered it. In fact, most people had to dig and search to pull theirs back out. And so a reboot feels almost new at this point, even though we've done this before. And I sat down and looked at it. It had Golioth firmware SDK version 0.5.0. So the first thing I did is pull it up to 0.21.1, which was easier than I thought it would be. The hardest thing is this is an ESP-IDF based project, and ESP-IDF has changed a lot in those last couple of years. Yeah. So I had basically like get rid of some of the peripheral drivers and pull in new ones, which turned out to be easy. There's a ton of examples in the ESP-IDF. It was mostly just finding the example and being like, okay, which one of these applies? And I always call it couch projects. I did most of this sitting on the couch late at night with a movie playing on TV.
Nice, that's great. I mean, Dylan, you're a head of product, but also you're kind of an industry watcher. What would you say from 2022 when we started with these boards to now? There's something that's new and kind of in and around. It's in the air. What is the part that you kind of also pulled into this?
Well, in 2022, I had just joined or was joining Golioth. I remember the MePaper, seeing it on the blog while I was interviewing, and I thought, hey, this is a really cool way to like, dog food the product. But fast forward to today, vibe coding, I think, is the thing that you are hinting at.
That is exactly it, yes.
There were a couple of, I think, reasons the MePaper project fell to the wayside a little bit. One was supply chain issues, like new team members couldn't get the hardware. The other was that it was a little bit cumbersome to create the meme in the first place because of these e-paper displays. You had to convert it into the right format. You had to rotate it 90 degrees. You had to make it black and white. So we had these GIMP instructions to do all of that. And so when I heard you guys were working on it again, I wanted to jump in and sort of put on my product manager hat and solve the problem of adoption and just make it easier to publish the memes, make it easier to set up the devices and utilize some AI agents since I can code, but I'm a little rusty.
I should say I was a user only, an enthusiastic user, a memer from the get-go. But Mike and Dylan are the ones doing this. But I also got to, because Dylan was doing this vibe coding, I chuck a new requirement at him. He's like, that's in there. Now there's the ability to change the contrast of the image we're uploading, that sort of thing. We should maybe give some people a look at what this looks like though, and then we can come back and see how it's built. So maybe we go into what it looks like in the on the website first, then let's go to hardware, then let's see it in action, and then maybe we can provision the device and talk about what it took to build that. here. So we'll pull up Dylan's screen. There we go.
So this is the MePaper web application. This is accessible by all Golioth employees now after our hack day. And the first order problem we wanted to solve was to make it easier to create memes. So this meme builder was the first feature that we created during the hack project. So you can upload a file. I don't believe you'll see my dialogue.
Oh, the dialogue
but
interface, yeah.
I just uploaded a shocked Pikachu. The meme editor then sort of renders it in a way that it should appear on the MagTag device, but you can kind of adjust like the zoom in, zoom out, that sort of thing as well. And then of course, you need text on the memes. So, instead of, we built enterprise IoT infra, it doesn't really fit, but we can make the text smaller. Maybe. So we built enterprise IoT infra, and Pikachu is shocked because it doesn't all fit on the screen. We can do some UI enhancements later, but
right. And Mike, this is a small screen too, right? I mean, like it's like 100 some pixels by 200 some pixels. It's not like big, right? It's ePaper.
Yeah, it's 296 wide by 128 tall.
Yeah.
It's an awkward size. So we tried to just auto resize it to that and then allow you to position the top and bottom text. And then ultimately what this does is converts it into that appropriate format for the ePaper screens, that PNB format. Originally, what we had to do was make this in GIMP, convert it to that format, upload it to Google Drive, and then we had it sync to Golioth. But clicking
the most
button,
dedicated memers, I think, were really internalizing it.
It was
worth nobody's looking at it.
What happens here is it generates it in this application, but as soon as you click this Beam Me Up button, that will actually upload this file as an artifact into Golioth using the Golioth REST API. So if I click that, this will now get delivered to all Golioth employees' devices.
Yeah, we should say that this is using Golioth on the back end as well, right? All of these things, and you guys kept pulling in new features. So there's the artifacts like you're doing here. Mike, you sent out an OTA to update when you had new features that were available on the hardware, that sort of thing. I forget if the voting was done through through streaming or otherwise. There you go. Mike got it. Everybody got it. I got it here too.
Yeah. So we aim to incorporate as many Golioth features, Golioth powered features as possible. So we do use pipelines for the voting mechanism. So the MagTag has these 4 buttons, and we tried to make it fun. So each of those 4 buttons map to a vote, and it just sends an integer 1 through 4 up through pipelines. And then all the memes that folks deploy show up in this gallery, and then it shows the votes. No one has voted for my shocked Pikachu meme yet, though.
Sounds like Mike just did.
I just voted. 4 stars.
There we are.
Yeah, and then there's the leaderboard, kind of made it kind of gamified, made it that sort of thing. Yeah, and it's great to have all these different capabilities in here.
We make it fun, and then everyone at Golioth since Hack Day has been using a Golioth-powered product because everyone is competitive and wants to be the meme leader, which, Chris, I don't know if I will catch back up to you, but
oh yeah,
Mike has the longest standing meme. The strategy here was to deploy it on a Friday.
Everybody goes
on a Saturday,
does their thing. So. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was a stroke of genius. Yeah, yeah, this is great. Yeah, and I mean, just being able to redeploy that infrastructure super well. I think one thing I've been thinking about a lot with like these LLM tools that are out there is they're great, right? They've enabled like a lot of like quick iteration, that sort of thing. But then being able to like kind of interact with enterprise grade IoT infrastructure, like you talked about in your meme, like it actually can accelerate you, right? I mean, like every time I use Gemini a lot, and Gemini like just is like, oh yeah, I know how to use the Golioth REST API. It's like great docs. I can just like tie into that, and you're writing Python front end, whatever you want to do to actually interact with the REST API. It's kind of that programming piece is not 100% figured out, but because of good documentation, because of the reliability of the platform, it just like kind of quote unquote just works, right? There's still so many problems in IoT to figure out that like this is just tying into it is more fun. I mean, this is such a fun project to watch and be part of.
And Dylan makes a good point that like this is great dog fooding. So like I got to try out a bunch of the stuff that I knew we had support for, but I hadn't really had a use case for it. Like for instance, our OTA system's wonderful and it can deliver more than one binary. So you can deliver the firmware update and you can deliver these memes. But I didn't deliver the memes through that like firmware update notification system. Like if you are actually getting a firmware update, the device will get notified. It will run through the whole update process. But if we put the memes into there, that means every device would have to have the same image on it. And if you think about like splash screens, if you have a fleet out there and you want to have different splash screens on different devices, rolling it out like that, that's kind of a blocker. But the system is flexible enough that what we did instead is we put a device setting, which can be pushed out to the whole fleet, that said which version of the splash screen of the meme it needed to display. And then you can change those on the device level or for groups of devices. So you could actually target and just send one specific meme to a person or a group of people in the company if you wanted, and it wouldn't be displayed for everyone else.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was like, splash screens, what are you talking about? Like, oh, you mean memes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the splash screen, like you're saying, right? And you might customize a product across different product lines, different customers, and end customers that you might have as a Golioth user, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's a great point. Mike, what did it take to, maybe Dylan could start pulling up the provisioning process. We can show how we provision it. There was like tying in the ESP web serial tool as well. But like, what did it take on the firmware and hardware side to kind of tie all this stuff in terms of integration? Was it a lot of work, little work, just migrational work? What was it?
So as far as authentication goes, we always say Golioth is secure by default, and we're actually trying to move away with our examples from pre-shared keys because they're not something you should be using at production. They're really easy for demos, but we're trying to make our certificate-based infrastructure easy enough to use for demos as well. And so I tried to do that here, and it worked out pretty well. And the way that I went about doing it is we're actually storing the certificates on an LFS, little file system partition. So it was just a matter of changing the partition table for this application, making the little file system with a file name that we're looking for the private certificate and the public key. And then there is actually the last hack day we did 3 months ago. I found this tool called littlefs-python that lets you make those partitions on your computer, and then you can flash them straight to the device. And so the app that Dylan made uses web authentication, and then it matches up the email address with a Golioth employee and uses a set of credentials, a little file system binary that matches that email address in order to format it. I think Dylan's going to show that whole process.
Kind of the goal here was to make it easy for everyone at the company to be able to set up a device. So we went ahead and went down a journey of web serial and web USB and ESP tool.js. And on first login in this MePaper app, it pops up a little setup wizard. You can also initiate it from the bottom here. Putting ourselves in the shoes of a customer was one of our goals here. That said, we don't manufacture the MagTag device. Some of this likely with most of our customers happens at production time in terms of getting certificates on the devices. So we had to be a little creative. But there's many use cases where you might have an off-the-shelf device and you need to set it up with Golioth as well. So walking through here, it tells you how to put the device into bootloader mode. So there's 2 buttons on the side. You can see it here, boot and reset. You have to hold down the boot button and then tap reset and then let go of the boot button. That puts it into bootloader mode. And if I can get my device to stand up here, once you've done this, it kind of walks you through the steps of connecting via web USB. You don't see the dialog here, but in Chrome, it pops up a little native browser dialog to allow the device. Once you click that, the application connects. And then the first step is to erase flash because we don't know what firmware necessarily was on there in the first place. So this actually uses ESP tool.js to erase the flash on the device such that you can then flash new firmware when it completes. And Chris, you mentioned vibe coding here. Interestingly enough, I quite literally just pasted a link to ESP-tool.js and said, can you create me a setup wizard that uses this to erase and flash the firmware? And for the most part, it just worked, which is wild.
Yeah, it is. I feel like things that are in JavaScript as well. Like I feel like a lot of the LLM like coding assisters too. Like there's just so much like such a corpus of knowledge that like the JavaScript, Python, they're just like very good at that sort of thing. Zephyr, I've had less results with Zephyr or C or things like it. I just go back to good old fashioned struggling and figuring things out.
Yeah, and if you could just paste reference like example code into the LLM, it usually figures out what to do with it. From here, we actually have basically an environment variable that says what version of firmware to grab. And then we have this stored in blob storage. And then the device certificate is on an individual device basis. So this is kind of served depending on who's setting it up, like Chris mentioned before. If we hit flash, this will actually flash the firmware on the device from the browser, which inspires a lot of different ideas on how we can think about incorporating this in other parts of Golioth as well. And then it's still in bootloader mode at this point, so we can disconnect the device and reconnect it to get it to effectively reboot itself into the normal mode. And the next step then is to set up Wi-Fi, which depending on your operating system, Linux, Mac, Windows, usually this involves different tools to get web serial. So we thought, why don't we just make a standard web serial setup here? So once we reconnect our device, it just asks us for Wi-Fi credentials. These never get sent up to the cloud or anything. This is just purely for sending over web serial directly to your device. My Wi-Fi networks are always named after Doritos.
As they should
And this actually was a one point in the setup flow where I had to debug the code myself rather than asking the LLM to do it for me. It wasn't sending the return characters after the serial commands, so it just wasn't successfully setting up Wi-Fi. Took me a little bit to figure that out. But once the device flashes blue here, it should be successfully connected, and now it's got a new meme. Or it's downloaded the latest meme.
Yeah, the latest, right.
Yeah.
That is very slick, Dylan.
Thank you. V0 AI coding environment.
I gotta say, we're really lucky that Dylan swooped in here because I was gonna do terrible embedded programmer front end development as my Hack Day project, and it was gonna be awful. And then we got this amazing setup that Dylan just showed off.
I think it also kind of shows a lot of teams are across different, what are they called? Like skill sets and things like it, right? There's a lot of like siloed teams that are, especially at big companies, like we're, a smaller company, but like when you have these kind of variety of problems to solve, it is helpful that the interfaces are very same, right? I feel like I said, the REST API is really well documented for Golioth. That helps a lot for, a front end team or front end team plus an LLM to make a very easy to iterate on app. From the device side, having an SDK like the ESP IDF port of the Golioth firmware SDK, and being able to talk to the cloud easily through the Golioth gateway, like that's very well documented as well. Like these things that defining both sides of the interface really helps to break down the barriers so that you can iterate faster. I feel like that if there's anything we got out of this is just like, obviously we know the platform well, right? But like the speed with which this was done, it's halfway to a Kickstarter at least, guys, right? I mean, like you think about like other remote teams, there's a business in here for some enterprising young
digital signage.
There's digital.
We need to get on that Repebble watch. That could be a Golioth watch.
Right. Bingo.
Yeah. But even things that like the Golioth API is well documented, you can like even take that Swagger JSON file and give it to an LLM and say, generate me a client for this. Similarly, you just go into the Golioth console. All of our APIs are used by the Golioth console as well. Inspect the requests that are happening, copy as curl, and just paste that. Say, hey, can you use this API? Send this request.
Yeah, I feel like like we've been talking about, well documented, good platforms for that, doing this sort of thing. It just allows you to prototype faster. It allows you to build things, to prove out a business use case, to prove out, to your boss that an idea might work, that you should keep working on it, that sort of thing. So really fits the story well. It feels like. What else do people know about MePaper, guys? Can they join and use this, or is this Golioth only? We should probably make that very clear.
Today, this is Golioth only. But we might consider opening it up, open sourcing the repo, that sort of thing, and other folks could set up their own version for their own team, their own company.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to do it. Yeah, keep your memes to yourselves, please. All right, well, thanks for sharing, guys, and thanks for building this fun thing. I'm excited for the holiday seasons that are approaching here to try it out, to keep sending you guys silly photos, and to keep playing with Golioth. So thanks for sharing.